Well, hi there. Welcome to 2017, and we have all sorts of opportunities in our brand new year. I'll just give you a quick anecdote before I... is that an anecdote or anecdote?
Anecdote.
I think it better be an anecdote. I don't have an antidote to anything. So, I was trying to think of what would be a good practical application of opportunity in our lives, and realizing that the best part of that is that, and Steve, I'm sure, in fact, I already know it since I've seen the slides, is going to talk about it tonight as far as that just about everything in our lives is an opportunity. But you happen to know our love for dogs. And every morning we have a routine in which we get up and we're, just sitting down in the living room and we talk with each other for about an hour or so, and the dogs provide perfect opportunities for us. One is to have their butt scritched. And they come over and they get right in front of you and they just back right on up and they go, "Here you go. Here is your opportunity to be of service." And they draw out the best in you, especially if you've grown your nails long for that opportunity, and are able to help them out. But the important thing to keep in mind is opportunities we tend to think of, it's knocking at the door as in, you must take advantage of, the winning lottery numbers as we were just discussing, or whatever comes up along the way. And in fact, we can't even begin to imagine that every single choice that we make is an opportunity to measure up to the best that is within us. And we're going to hear a whole lot more about that tonight. So without further ado, let's welcome Mr. Steve Bobbitt.
Hey! Thank you, John. Get my toy going here. Okay, we're good. Happy New Year. Yeah. We got another one in the books, don't we? Put them away. Looking good. I got my own with artisans. So, opportunity. This begins the second book of the Search for God series. Chapter 1 is opportunity. Very interesting topic. We, as usual, have our disclaimer that what you're going to get regarding this opportunity subject is my interpretation of the readings thereof, also my research on it. You are encouraged to do your research, to go in and find what it means to you, because Cayce was always telling us that each of the readings are personal in nature. A lot of people can read the same thing, but how we take away from it is going to be up to us individually. And it's going to have a personal meaning where we can choose to accept or reject that which we heard. And at the end of the day, it's all about application. Are we going to apply that which we learned? I've found these to be very meaningful for me. The books that I used in my research, in addition to the readings, is obviously the Search for God book, book 2, and by Dr. Mark Thurston, Experiments in Practical Spirituality, which is the accompaniment for book 2. Both Search for God books have a separate book written that goes in line with them that talks a lot about using some things different and having experiments that you can put on in your life on a weekly basis, on a daily basis, to help reinforce the lessons that are coming forth in there. Very, very good. I was actually looking for it because I knew I had it on PDF. And then I was monkeying around in my bookshelf, and lo and behold, I found the book. So that's good, because I'm not a big online reader per se. It's not my favorite thing to do. In 262.83, the 83rd reading for the Search for God section of 262s, Cayce just talks about opportunity and for us to count the hardships, thy troubles, even thy disappointments, rather as stepping stones to know his way better. This is very interesting because it sets up the whole concept that we are loved. We have an all-loving Father who wants us back very much. We were born as co-creators with him, companions for him. He gave us the power of free will to use as we wish, and we chose to use it as we wished. The Cayce readings tell us that the original sin, those of who are perhaps of some Christian nature, or specifically Catholicism, knows about original sin. Cayce was asked that question, what is original sin? And he said, disobedience. You were told to do something and you didn't do it. That was the original sin. So we continued to use our disobedience. And we went and did whatever we were supposed to do. And eventually we came down into the earth plane and became trapped. We became trapped because of our selfish and unloving choices that we made. Consequently, we couldn't get out. We ended up hardening our spiritual natures, which we were originally born in, essentially hardened into these sexy bodies we parade around in on a daily basis. And our mission here is to get back. And we've been given many opportunities by an all-loving and merciful Father. We have the universal laws to help us. Love is law, law is love. Number one. In case you need help remembering that, there's rule 2. Reaping what you sow. Because we create our own universes. We are the ones who build in our minds those things that we experience. And reaping what you sow is very important, and it's actually key to this entire chapter. So we'll talk about that more. He gave us the man Jesus who became the Christ. He is the pattern. He is the pattern for us to take and follow and live our lives. Make the choices, live as he did. You didn't see anything where Jesus was all about the I, me, my. He was always doing for others. And as he said, he will be the greatest of all, will be the servant to all. Something for us to think about. We have mirror images. We don't really think about them, but we talk about them. We do have mirror images where if we see things about people we just don't like, there's a high degree of possibility that it exists within us too. We're getting it put back to us. Dreams. Dreams are another opportunity we're going to talk about. We may not think about dreams as being a source of opportunity, but they most certainly are. So we have all of these things given to us by an all-loving Father because he wants us back. He's trying to help us. He wants us to be back with him. But we have got to prove that we want to come back. And therein lies the problem. Because when we were using our own free will and being disobedient, doing what we wanted to because we could, we were making a conscious choice not to be back with him. Thus, we are now reaping what we sowed. In our world, our 3D world, we know that everything is an opportunity. Everything. They're all about us. But are we aware? Each person in this room is an opportunity for another. Each person walking down the street with you is an opportunity. Each person driving down the road with you is an opportunity. Our surroundings, our earths, nature, the animals, all of these forms come back and give us an opportunity. The piano is an opportunity. Our life is an opportunity. We're living this life to prove that we've learned certain precepts that enable us to say, yes, I am ready to come back. But we've got to prove that we want it. Ourselves. The biggest source of opportunity lies between our ears. Because a lot of it comes down to perception. And that's where we're going to really find it. We may have events come up and say, hey, look at me. We may say, oh, that's an opportunity. Well, that event might be an opportunity, but what are you going to do with it upstairs? Is the true opportunity. All opportunities arise from an event. But are we aware of them? What's an event? Event's something that gets our attention. Something that makes us aware of a change of something that affects us. May or may not be a problem. We can have good events. We can have bad events. And they happen all of the time. Oftentimes we become immune to them because we just think it's, well, that's just life. But these are events and they're happening for a reason because there are no coincidences. Take, for example, if you were to walk down the street and you stepped on a piece of gum with your shoe, that's an event. If you were buzzing down the 101 with 2.3 million of your closest friends and somebody comes up and starts flashing red and blue lights at you, that's an event. You had kids and you walked outside to get the Saturday morning paper and you noticed that your front yard trees were decorated in toilet paper. That's an event. You're sitting at home watching TV and your oldest child comes in with a new tattoo on his face. That's an event. All of these are events. Why? Because they got your attention. All of these events are also opportunities for you. For you. And what we need to learn to do is to start thinking critically about what it is. What does this event mean to me? What does it mean to me personally? And then we drill down a little bit deeper and say, okay, is it a good thing or is it a bad thing? All of this happens really, really quickly because when events happen, automatically in a lot of cases we react. You may have heard the term knee-jerk reaction. Well, this is how we react to a lot of events that we have in our daily lives. But it's recognizing that herein lies the seeds of opportunity for us. If you stepped on that piece of bubble gum, what does that mean to you? Well, now you got somebody's germs on the bottom of your shoe. Well, where did this happen at? If it happened right outside and you're going in, you can't be walking in the house with it because you're going to make a mess and somebody's going to talk to you. That means you may have to go get something to scrape it off with. You may have to get your hands dirty. It's going to take time out of your day. Talking to Mr. Policeman, what's the initial reaction you had when the bubblegum machine went off? Oh my God, it's going to cost me money. What am I doing? My insurance is going to go up. I have to go to driving school. What's happening here? What was I doing? Maybe it's a good event. But what are we thinking when something like that happens? What's our initial reaction? If you pay attention to the news occasionally, you'll see that around a lot of holidays of certain municipalities and that the police officers or the local police officer will pull people over and give them tickets to the county fair or something like that. I see that happen in a lot of places across America. People are freaking out. Oh my God, what am I doing? What's this guy pulling me over for? They get defensive. They are reacting as opposed to acting, but they could be given a free night at the local motel. Woohoo, yeah. You know, you look at your toilet paper. Well, why did you do it? Well, the good thing is that your kid's probably somewhat popular. Because if they wasn't, they probably have broken your windows. So that kind of has to be a good thing. And the second thing is that you get up there, somebody's going to have to clean it up or pray for rain and wind. But maybe you get some time to do some work. You're giving an opportunity to tend to some of the branches or something. How are you going to react when your kid comes in? What are you thinking? Oh my God, I can't take him out in public anymore. People are going to think I'm a bad parent. It's all about the I, me, mine. Oh my God, this kid can't be mine. And what does it mean? Well, maybe you're fearful because you know that, chances are he just shot himself in the foot with any good job opportunity going forward. He is up to make the choice to be an entrepreneur because he may not be getting a job for anybody else. And you have all these things, but how do you address the issue with the individual? You fly off the handle? What do you do? And then what if it was just one of those rub-on tattoos? And they went in there and they pulled your chain just to screw with you because it was April 1st, just to see how you react because they knew where your hot buttons were. And you performed as expected. But there's lessons there. There's a lot of lessons there, and we've got to think critically and ask ourselves, why is this happening? What outside of the physical plane of this is there the meaning for this? Why is this going on with me? The Cayce readings, this one came out of the 26250 reading, said, in the material becomes the opportunity of paralleling, correlating, cooperating, making for that which brings into existence the effects of using that which is presented in opportunity for the developing soul. Those of you who have read Cayce before understands that he likes to use a lot of words sometimes. So if you want to get the truncated meaning, read the yellow. In the material becomes the opportunity for the developing of the soul. In the material, we are trying to develop our souls. Consequently, it's what's happening here in our material plane that is of ultimate benefit to us on the spiritual side of the ledger. Again, unless we are in our minds with that, we don't think of it in those terms because we just take it at face value and say, dang it, what's wrong with you? What made you go out and get that tattoo on your face? And we just need to start thinking that it's important for us to properly frame the material events that we have and put a spiritual twist on it. If you remember back several months ago when we did the patience presentation, Cayce also said that patience is one of the main things that we are here to learn. Events tend to test our patience because we tend to react as opposed to act. And another reading was that each soul's entrance into material consciousness should represent to the entity the awareness that a universal consciousness, God, is aware of the entity's purpose, the entity's aims. And this consciousness represents an opportunity for the entity in the material experience to become a channel to glorify that purpose, that cause. Again, part of the reasons we're here is to learn to glorify God. We weren't very good at that because when we were using our free will in the pursuit of whatever we wanted to do, we were essentially indulging in self-glorification. Each soul's entrance into material consciousness represents an opportunity for the entity to glorify that purpose, that cause, that God. We're here to learn to glorify God. It is important that we recognize that because we need to put God ahead of ourselves. For many, many eons, we've been putting God behind us. We've been edging God out, ego. And we've been doing what we want to do. The readings also ask us for how long can man defy his maker. I think we're starting to get up there and in point where we're going to quit doing that for ourselves. We must unlearn these tendencies because in our past lives we've had bad behavior. We bring forth a lot of things that carries over into this lifetime. These are our challenges that we must learn to overcome. And by overcoming them means we need to learn not to do that. I remember when I was a kid, I used to do all kinds of stupid stuff. My old man always asked me, well, did you learn anything, boy? Yeah, he let me do it. Yeah, he knew what was going on. He knew what was going to happen. But he let me make my own mistakes. That was great. That was really great. But as soon as the mistake come to fruition, he'd make sure I understood something. Did you learn anything, boy? Aggravated the hell out of my sister when he would do that. In the Bible, we also learn that we are to glorify God. Matthew 22:36-40, King James Version, states, Master, which is the greatest commandment in law? Jesus said unto him, Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy mind. This is the first and great commandment. And the second is like unto it. Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. On these two commandments hang all the law and the prophets. Don't get too much clearer than that, in my estimation. What are you supposed to do? Right there. Now, if this is what you're supposed to do, then what's stopping you from doing it? The answer will be staring back at you from the mirror. You got to make a choice to do this. Or not. You can always come back and become a repeat offender. A lot of what we do and our reactions that we undertake come as a result of our own personal mind maps or mental paradigms that we have with us. Our personal operating system. We got to learn to what makes us tick. What makes us tick. And it's not always a comfortable conversation to have with yourself. But the good news is you don't have to put it in the paper. You can just, have it with yourself. But when you start having these conversations, then you find yourself making a list of action items to do. Why we do what we do. These are our reactionary responses. They usually are outside of our awareness. They just happen. Think about normal behavior. Maybe you're sitting there, suddenly you realize that you're biting your fingernails or something. You didn't know you were, you just did it. You just started to do it for some reason. It was outside of your awareness. You didn't think about it. We have a lot of personal, familial, and cultural values, attitudes, and beliefs that we've been indoctrinated to believe and have. Our past lives things start to come back into here. And it doesn't mean that they're wrong or if they're right, but if we don't think about them, we can't really evaluate them. Because these tendencies are deeply entrenched in our psyche. They're in there, deep. And they are just involuntary reactions that we have. It's like a computer operating system. It's always running in the background. You don't see Windows, but it's making stuff happen right now. It's always in there, and that's how our personal values, attitudes, and beliefs are. My uncle just celebrated his 90th birthday last Thursday. And he was born 1927 in New York City to Eastern European immigrants. And his values, attitudes, and beliefs are very well set forth. He believes there are certain roles for men and women. Totally pulls my wife's chain. It really does. Because he sits up there and goes, oh, that's woman's work. I ain't going to do that. And she's, she's one of the women of the 90 type of peeps, and she just spins her up. And I mean, that's just how he is. My aunt, who died about 10 years ago, she was a professional housewife. We're talking June Cleaver here. I mean, we had the apron when you go on there, the whole 9 yards. But that's how she grew up. That's how they lived their life. This was built into his psyche. I keep telling somebody that he ain't changing. Ain't going to happen. Ain't going to happen. He ain't going to change. But this is how he is. So we've got to recognize that if other people have it, high degree of likelihood we have it. Think about bigotry and racism. Oftentimes that's been passed down generation to generation, right? One way or the other. Why? Because that's what they were brought up in. It becomes their personal values, attitudes, and beliefs. Unless they investigate them critically and closely, they may or may not be right. But it's always back there. Fortunately, it's changing. I think it's kind of changing for the better somewhat. I'm sure we'll screw that up too. But the key point here is that we've got to take ownership of what it is that we do. We got to know why we do what we do. And the only way to do it, to put this on our personal radar screens, is to stop and think about it. Last year, John did a great presentation on ideals. Well, our involuntary reactions are a reflection of our personal ideals. They may be grounded in material, or they may be grounded in spiritual beliefs. We've got to recognize that we are material beings. We have a long history of being material beings, even though our ancestry is truly spiritual. And for us to change, to our evolution, it's a process. It's not going to happen overnight. We've got to get in here and start doing it. The material beliefs are beliefs in self. The I, me, my. Spiritual belief systems are funded in the Christ. And when we start to live them, when we start to transit from a material mindset into one of a spiritual mindset, we are looking at things across different ways. What kind of actions can we live? What can we do? And how do we conduct ourselves in material, mental, and spiritual manners? We find the ideals that work for us. And it's not an easy process, because unless you were totally brought up in it, it's not second nature. You've got to force yourself to want to be able to do this. The way that we react and stuff is a reflection of that which we believe. We may not know. We may not say, well, I believe that. Well, why do you do it? Well, that's just the way we've always done it. And is that really a good answer? Well, it might be if you haven't thought about it. So we've got to think about these things and ask ourselves, why is it that I do this, this, and this? What's driving me? What is the underlying urge that I'm experiencing that causes me to do or react this way? Because what we have to do, if we find ourselves doing something that is really not in our best interest or in loving ways, perhaps we need to critically think about that, why we are doing it, and make a conscious choice to change it. And as y'all know, we're all very open and adaptive to change, aren't we? Yeah. The older you get, the more adaptive you change. I'm sure my uncle's going to turn a new leaf on life tomorrow. But that's what it is. What is your guiding principles? What are the guiding principles that will enable you to act instead of react? How can you change that? How can you change that? We got to really think about this, because it's not something that we are very, very comfortable doing. And when we are given guidance by Cayce on how we are to conduct and construct an ideal, Cayce guides us and tells us that an ideal then cannot, should not, will not be that which is man-made, but must be of the spiritual nature that has its foundation in truth, in God, in the Godhead, that there may be the continual reaching out of an individual, whether applied to the physical life, the mental life, or the spiritual life. It's got to be founded in God. Why are you doing this? The answer can't start because I want to. The answer should be is because it's better for somebody else, would be the pattern of the Christ. We think of this a lot, but an ideal has to have its foundation in truth, in God, and then applied mentally, physically, and spiritually. It's the application by which we take the knowledge that you're getting here today through this wonderful opportunity and are able to now take it and transform it from knowledge into understanding. I know a lot of stuff, but unless I practice it and do it, I do not garner understanding of it. I know I flip a light switch on over there and lights come and go. Don't ask me to explain that. I don't know that. Ask you how. I don't know. I just know that, but I don't understand it. So what we got to do is think about what's driving us. What are our internal urges? What's our purpose? What's important to us? And where is it? Is it in God or is it in self? That's the key question that we need to consider. In another reading, Cayce offers, do with a might what the hands find to do in the service of the Lord, not in self, not in gratification of self, not in magnifying any of the material influences or forces. People always challenge this thought and say, well, how do I survive? The answer is reaping what you sow. What you give, you will get if you need to. If you put others first, like Jesus did, you'll get what you need when you need it. Material-based ideals are self-serving. You have yourself, I am self-important. I am somebody. I have a nice car, so therefore I am somebody. You become subject matter experts on everything in and around you. You are now a self-appointed expert on everything that you see. And when you start doing that, are you not elevating yourself above others? Are you not giving them an opportunity and recognizing that everybody has an opinion and they're all on the same path and are trying to do it differently? There is no one right way to do things here. There's a lot of ways. But when we start becoming self-absorbed with ourselves, it's very easy to become judgmental. And when we start to judge others, then we are elevating ourselves above them. Cayce tells us not to do that. This ties right into us being mirrors of each other. We are all here to help each other. We have attributes and tendencies that enables us to get a reflection of what's maybe happening inside of me. A lot of times we say, oh, well, I would never do that. Well, maybe you would not do that one act, but what's the driving force behind it? And you find that we in fact are mirrors of each other. Because other people are giving us an opportunity to improve ourselves by looking at what they're doing. And then choosing not to judge them, but say, okay, how does this affect me? How can I be living this? Am I doing something like this? This does not resonate with me. I don't like this. Maybe I think, well, okay, if I don't like this, then what am I doing along the same lines? We got to be open to that. All right? I mean, I know we're all perfect. Just ask us. We'll tell you that. But we've got to be open that there might be a few chinks in the armor. We don't, again, like to think of that because our egocentric selves do not appreciate self-degradation here. We're beautiful. We're wonderful. But we need to recognize that a lot of our actions we spout off at, and we don't have all the facts. We don't have all the facts. How can you evaluate a situation if you don't have all the facts? You can't. Then it becomes speculative, putting in suppositions. And then what they say about assumptions and assume. Probably a very true statement there. You start spouting off with it. Is this a problem? Well, conscious-minded problems, things in our material world that we perceive as being problems, are quite often a spiritual opportunity, if we choose to think about it in those terms. Because if you're looking at something as being strictly a problem, then where are you grounded at? Where's your grounding? And we can choose to think of it either way. We can say, well, this is a big problem. Or look on the other side of the coin. Hey, this is an opportunity to learn something. Maybe I didn't see this. And a lot of times we start doing this is because we don't really get ourselves grounded, and we're more afraid of what other people may say or think or do if we make a mistake. And because do you ever know anybody ever want to cover up their mistakes? Yeah? Nobody in here would ever do that, I know, but it's human nature, right? Well, why? Well, because, we don't want to lose face or something. Certain cultures are very, very big on not losing face. But we need to see where we are. How are we going to frame it in our minds? It's going to be based on what we truly believe. What is stronger, our material beliefs or our spiritual beliefs? That's going to be the driving factor that turns it into a problem or a choice. That's what the true story is. And if we find ourselves continually basing our decisions in life on material basis, then we could state that we are of this world. We have to ask ourselves, are we in it or are we of it? In it means, hey, we're here, but we're trying to live a spiritual life. We're just going along with it. But if you're of it, I got to have that Beamer. That's important. I got to have some nice rags. I got to look cool. Got to have, perfect little family. I got to have all the things that make other people think that I'm cool. We see a lot of people do that, don't we? Yeah. Yeah. We go out and have medically induced enhancements to make ourselves look good. Vanity is a big business. People are always looking for the anti-aging. Why are you trying to anti-age? Just because you're trying to preserve the outside doesn't mean that the inside ain't breaking down. Right? Yeah. Yeah. There are no coincidences. Everything that occurs is happening for a very important reason. That's up to you to figure out what it is. It's being presented on your radar screen for your benefit. How are you going to deal with it? What is important to you? Is it of a material nature or is it of a spiritual nature? What does it mean to me? Why are you here? This is an opportunity. This is an opportunity for you right now. You have an opportunity here. What's it trying to tell you? Don't know. Find out. Other people and their actions is a interesting way for us to test ourselves. Anybody ever hear of a term called road rage? Is that a choice or is that a reaction? What are they trying to do? What's happening? And one of the first things that I learned about through the Cayce readings is that he said the only sin is selfishness. And I always think about that. And I know that I've been able to take the 10 Commandments and trace them all right back to selfishness. But all these other things that we do in life we can also probably trace it down to selfishness. People get mad at each other on the road. Why? You're doing it to me. As opposed to sharing the road. Maybe they, no, you're not. Right? You ever know these people that, they're going to get right on your bumper? The other day I was coming home from Casa Grande. I was on I-10 in the HOV lane. Doing 65, 70 miles an hour. Speed limit 65 going through Tempe. I got passed on the left. Oh, on the left. I'm in the left lane. I got passed in the shoulder, guy. And he was right on my butt. He was. And I you know what? I really couldn't go anywhere. What are you going to do? I mean, what are you going to do? There was a time when I was coming from Casa Grande into Phoenix, and I had one of the clerical folks with me because her son got shot in a home invasion the night before, and she came into work for some reason. I was taking her back to the hospital. Damned if we didn't get passed on the right. I was in the right lane and we got passed on the shoulder. What's going on with this? You start seeing this, and what are you going to do? I mean, how are you going to react? It is a reaction, or is it a opportunity to step back and perhaps maybe pray for this individual and his sense of urgency? Don't know. A lot of room, the roads around here are becoming more and more crowded, aren't they? Getting more and more crowded. So let's say you're buzzing down the freeway one day. Let's just say you're going down to 51. And you're over by Indian School. Traffic is moderate. It's not totally heavy. You're going the speed limit, but that's about all you're going to get out of it at the moment. Then all of a sudden, as you're approaching the Indian School exit, some guy passes you and makes that exit. Cuts you right off. Now, what is your reaction? Are you going to speak to God? Are you going to hit the horn? Are you going to yell? Translate actions into sign language? What are you going to do? This is what a lot of people do this. So that's what happens. This is the trigger amount. People are coming in and starting to trigger us by an action that they did. And all of these actions that you're doing, not going to change anything, is it? Yelling at them and hitting the horn and speaking to them with your fingers, ain't going to change nothing. But something happened. How do you frame it in your minds? Well, I would never do that. All right. I'm the baby in here. Chances are, if I've done it, you have done it too. A lot of driving things that we've made, whether it's intentional or not, we've made driving errors. We have given other people opportunity to speak on behalf or wave at us, and I've had all kinds of stuff. And I see this more and more happening all the time. But what if as you're going down here, this guy cuts off? Let's say somehow you're able to look inside the car and you see that this person in the back seat is his wife, and and the baby's starting to come out. What are you going to do then? Are you still going to give them the business, and what for? Or are you going to have a different tone of voice about this? And the point of the matter is that nothing has changed. The same event happened. The only thing that is different is that now you have the rest of the story, as Paul Harvey would say. But how did you react to it? You can control how you react, because we can control our thoughts, our words, and our deeds. It's amazing that we can train animals to do certain things, but yet we can't train ourselves to do certain things so well. It all comes down to, what are we trying to do? Are we doing it for us, or are we trying to experience a little bit of patience here and exhibit that? That's the whole thing. And think about the bookstore. You go to Barnes & Nobles or someplace like that. What's the self-help? We're all cracked eggs. But what is it talking about? It's talking about using our head for something other than a hat rack. Right? That's what it's talking about. It's talking about how do I think about and frame different events of the day. It's making a conscious choice. Because doing a lot of this is very, very hard. It's a slow, slow process. It's very, very easy to let others goad us into action. Think about the highway, the freeway. Somebody cut you off. Anybody got their BFF who just knows how to push their buttons? You know, they just walk in the room and you're already PO'd. You ever have anybody like that who just loves you that much? They got their hot button, right? They can inspire us and they can tempt us. Think Tony Robbins, right? Think Tony Robbins. He's an inspirational speaker. What about the nosy neighbor? Anybody got any nosy neighbors? All we want to do? What you got going over here? What's happening? All the little Budinskis, right? They're tempting us and inspiring us. Tony Robbins may inspire us to be all we can be. Nosy neighbors tempting us to react as opposed to act with a patient, loving intent. It's a choice. We may not always view these things as opportunities, but they certainly are. And we grow spiritually by how we handle these events. These are all outside of us. We're being subjected to them. And as we're being subjected to them, we have a choice. Are we going to act or are we going to react? This is a change of the mental paradigms for you. This is going to be like turning an aircraft carrier. And having chased those things all over the Pacific, I can tell you they don't turn directions very quick. It's a slow, agonizing process. Do you know that it takes 5 miles for an aircraft carrier to turn 180 degrees? Yeah. It takes 5 miles for that puppy to turn 180 degrees. So this is how we have got to change our thinking. We've got to shift from being a mental of this world being, and where everything is about the I, me, my, to being in this world, but of a spiritual nature. It takes conscious thought for us to evaluate that which we do. And as human beings, it's very easy for us to be part-timers. Anybody ever make a New Year's resolution? How's that working? Anybody going to do a diet? Probably gone by now, ain't it? Anybody going to go to the gym every day and work out? We do this all the time. This requires commitment. Changing your thinking requires you to commit to doing things for the right way, for the right reason, not just because. So long we've always been, just going down to water. I know I can speak for myself because that's how I've been. The person standing in front of you wasn't the same person you would have seen 10, 15 years ago, I promise you. Same sexy body, but totally different individual. But it was a process, and it took time. It took time. And it's not painful. And the thing about it, if you think critically about what Cayce talks about in the book of Revelation, transforming yourself from a material mindset into a spiritual mindset is essentially living the book of Revelation. That's what it's all about. It's the transition from being of the earthy, as Cayce would say, into being back into the spiritual being. It's a process of changing our thinking. And then once we do it, then we've got to apply. It's not like flipping a light switch on. It ain't going to be an overnight event. You have got to take action in order to solidify it. And these are the tests that we do. People do not meet by chance. Everybody has a specific reason. Everybody in here is here for a very specific reason, not just coincidence. Somebody just didn't decide to show up. Lee just didn't decide to bring Kathleen with her. There's a reason. They are necessary in the experiences of others, though they may not always use their opportunities in a spiritual way or manner. That is very true, isn't it? Very, very, very true. We don't always use what that is being given to us spiritually. And when we do, then we can start looking for it. We've got to go out and look for it. Everybody you meet, whether it's in church, on the road, walking down the street, in the supermarket, whatever, that's an opportunity. That's an opportunity. What about walking down New York City? Maybe it's an opportunity for you to smile at another person. Get a hairy eyeballs from them because they don't do that there. But it's all there. It's all opportunity for us. Bob's personal journey of spiritual growth gets bogged down behind some idiot going half the speed limit. Anybody have that happen to him? No, not me. Oh, no. All right, as I hear of the best intentions, you get tested. We're going to be tested. And guess what? We may or may not pass, but that's okay. This is not pass-fail, right? If this is an opportunity and you didn't do so good here, well, there'll be another chance, probably on the ride home. All right, you have another opportunity to practice. But it's okay to fail because we're set up to this. We have a lot of things that we've got to overcome. This is one of them. And it's okay because we're going to learn something, then we get a chance to prove it. Did I do good? Did I do not? Even if you do good, guess what? You're going to get another chance. This ain't like high school where you pass one test and you're golden. You got to continually prove it and prove it and prove it and prove it and prove it. You got to take ownership so that it becomes automatic. It's an automatic loving response is what we're trying to get out here. Okay? 2074:1. Do not jump at conclusions. Analyze all relationships. That even means walking down the street. Hold no grudges, no feelings, because others have not applied or do not apply as ye feel to be right or ye feel should be. There you are, elevating thyself. Suppose self in the other individual's place, and hold thy tongue from speaking guile or evil of anyone. We never know what another person is going through at any given time. I work at a facility here in Phoenix, or actually Scottsdale, on a pretty regular basis, and back in November, they hired a gentleman, a salesperson. Very nice man, very quiet, friendly, very nice. Go into work, started work Saturday, and on Monday I was talking with a lot of the staff, and I found out he killed himself on Christmas Day. We never know what other people are going through. We never know. And when they're doing something that we disagree with, it's very easy for us to jump to conclusions and to revert back to our old ways. But perhaps we take the advice and hold the tongue, learn to magnify the virtues and minimize the faults. Each is entitled to their own opinion, and we never know what's going on in their lives. And when we don't feel we're being given the respect of whatever level that we feel we deserve, then maybe we just pray for them because maybe there's something weighing heavily on their minds. We never know what it could be. Don't get mad. Don't cuss a body out mentally or in voice. This brings more poisons than may be created by even taking foods that aren't good. How many of y'all think about that? Mental has a direct correlation. So you're finding out why the hell you're here, ain't you? Yeah, okay. Even mentally doing things, we are creating havoc within us. We are all one big interconnected body, individually and collectively. And if we're starting to put forth negative vibes, then what are we doing? Well, we're creating our own karma, because what goes out must come back. But we're also now starting to poison ourselves internally. And that's not a good thing. And know that the mind is the builder. There you go. And know that the mind is the builder. Oft things said under the breath and never given expression to in word may be as potent as though you railed for a period. For ye are measured with that measurement in body, in mind, in spirit, as ye meet to others. Thoughts are things. What goes out must come back. We're talking the cosmic boomerang here. And we don't often give conscious thought to, well, if I don't say it, I'm going to be okay. Well, if you're thinking it, Cayce's telling us you're not. Creating poisons. You are creating something that's going to have to be met on yourself. We don't think about these things. We must learn that we have to come down to loving indifference, as opposed to saying, what in the hell's wrong with you? Maybe we say, well, have a good day. And understand that, okay, maybe there's something going on, and whisper a prayer or something for that person. But we got to learn that we cannot react even mentally. Even mentally. We don't think about that because we've never been taught that. Something to think about, isn't it? Make sure I got the point? Okay. All right, let's talk about opportunities and how they occur in our daily life. Anybody ever have a flat tire? That's always an exciting fun. Opportunities appear in the strangest places and strangest times. Let's use an example that was came from Mark Thurston in that book, Practical Experiments in Spirituality. Let's take an example where you have to pick somebody up at the airport. And this time they show up. No planes are canceled. So you go and get them, and they live out in the sticks. And it's night. They came in late at night, and you go down because you're a good friend, pick them up, take them home. Interstate's probably about 10 miles from their house. They live out in the country, and it's a 2-lane, windy, dark road. You got the woods all around you. Drop them off at the homes, say your goodbyes, start home, heading down the highway. Start noticing road noise getting a little bit louder. What's that? Then suddenly you hear a ding and a light comes on your dashboard. It's the tire pressure monitoring system informing you of a low air condition in one of your tires. Doesn't ever tells you which one. You got a flat tire coming up. So you say, all right, well, it's late, it's dark, it's cold, and I want to be out here. So maybe I'll be able to do it. It just tell me I have low tire. Maybe it's a slow leak. And then you just kind of slow down and keep buzzing down the road. And then suddenly it gets louder. The noise gets louder, and you start noticing that your control of your car, the steering, gets a little squirrely. You now realize that you have a flat tire. Not what you wanted right now. It's dark, you're on a 2-lane road, nobody around, 5 miles from civilization, and you got a flat tire. So what do? Well, no problem. Just flip up the phone, call AAA, say, hey, come change this thing for me. Open up your phone, no signal. Curses. Now what do you got to do? Guess who's changing the tire now? You are. So, get out of the car, hit back to the trunk, pop the trunk, unwrap the spare tire, and damned if that thing ain't flat. Now you got 2 flat tires out in the middle of nowhere. What's your thoughts? What are your thoughts right now? You've always had your personal beliefs that people, if you ever stop to help somebody, they might kill you. Or you've always heard that you're not supposed to pick up hitchhikers and things like that because bad things happen. All this is in your mind. Consequently, you went into self-preservation mode first. You went into self-preservation mode first. I'm not going to put myself at risk. So what kind of things are going through your mind right now? You have an embedded thing that somebody is out there to get you. And they might be lurking in the woods with evil intent to harm you. And you're scared. You can't contact anybody. You have 2 flat tires. You're in the middle of nowhere. Spiritually speaking, this is the perfect storm. Opportunity is knocking. Opportunity is knocking. What is going on here? How is this a good thing? Well, quite honestly, it is a good thing. It's a good thing. When things like this happen, instead of being reactions, well, maybe you're being given an opportunity to stop and think about what am I being told? What am I being shown? What's the lesson here for me to think about? We have to examine ourselves. We have to pause and think. Instead of just running off of, very reactionary and just going full speed ahead, maybe we need to throttle back a little bit and give us a cause. Think, what's happening? What am I being shown? What's going on? What's God trying to tell me? What is God trying to tell me? This is where your ideals come into play. This is where your ideals come into play. Al sent this out the other day. It just happened to be quite apropos for this. We must be willing to measure up against the ideals and purposes we have set. Be willing to bring our thoughts and our words and our acts before this measure that we set as the pattern, as the ideal, as the principle for our life. Edgar Cayce. If we have our beliefs and our deal are based in material things such as fear, self-preservation, this is what we're going to measure ourselves against. But if we're going to put ourselves into spiritual lays, maybe we think a little bit differently. Instead of looking at 2 flat tires in the middle of nowhere as being fate, maybe we look at it as opportunity. Having the ideal based in spiritual basis is a very good thing in a lot of ways. One, it enables us to, as Cayce would say, step by step, precept by precept, line by line, to examine ourselves. Because you can do an end of day review. As you're laying in bed thinking about how the day is, trying to go to sleep, maybe you ask yourselves, how were my thoughts, my words, and my deeds today? How do they measure against what I said I wanted to do? You evaluate yourself. You evaluate yourself, and it's okay to fail. It really is. It's okay to fail, because that's an opportunity to do better next time. You recognize there's still work to do. And eventually, the more and more you do this, and I speak for my own self personally, is that instead of doing it at the end of the day, you do it throughout the day. Did I handle this situation in the best way possible? Or did I fly off the handle? Both answers are okay because we're human, we're here to learn. But at least you're thinking about it. And the more you can think about it, then the sooner it's going to come into a manifestation or an act that becomes what you want it to be. We're building it slowly and surely. Not going to happen with a flip of a switch, but we're going to build on it. We're going to build on it. So when we talk about our opportunity, beginning opportunity, with our 2 flat tires, I was able to find 5 opportunities for that individual. 5 opportunities out of 1 cruel twist of fate. 1, you have an opportunity to get in touch with yourself. We need that. We need to know ourselves, to be ourselves, yet one of the whole. When we are in material mode, we kind of forget the second part of that statement. It's all about the I, me, my. So now we're able to come in and think, okay, why is this happening? What's going on? Having 2 flat tires in the middle of the night certainly is not a good thing. But it provides a seed for you to turn a negative situation, 2 flat tires, into a positive situation because you're now making the choice to put a positive spin on it. You're saying, you know what, there's lessons here for me to learn that I can do, that I can apply. This is happening. Oh yeah, it sucks to be me right now. But you know what? There's something for here me to learn, and I'm going to learn it. I'm thank you, Lord, for 2 flat tires. Third opportunity is you're going to get to demonstrate mastery. This is where you start with your introspection. You're thinking back, well, you know what? How many times have I driven by another individual who was pulled over, broken down on the side of the road, that I could have aided and provided comfort to? Probably a lot. Well, guess what? Karma's a bitch. Now here you are, out in the middle of BFE, broken down with 2 flat tires. You get to meet yourself. But you know what? You're going to have opportunities now to turn the ship around. Because after you get your tires fixed, sooner or later you're going to come across some boy broken down again. How are you going to act this time? Did you learn anything, boy? As somebody used to tell me. So you're going to be able to have, once you do some introspection, you get to demonstrate mastery. If you don't go to step 1 or step 2, you're going to demonstrate it again, because sooner or later you're going to have another opportunity to have some issues. The 4th benefit is that you get to address your fears. You are afraid always of some unknown thing or person lurking in the dark of night with intent to kill you. Maybe you've watched all 39 episodes of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And, you know, you've built this fear in your mind. And I don't know how many we're on, but it's quite a bit, you know, just like what Freddy and there's so many of these things. But again, you have these things. Well, guess what? You're out in the middle of nowhere and nobody killed you. How about that? Got away with one there. Right? Got away with one. Your 5th opportunity is now your unfortunate situation providing an opportunity for somebody else to help you. So out of 1 event, 5 positives. This is testimony to an all-loving Father giving us an opportunity after opportunity after opportunity to help ourselves if we so choose to do that. Pretty powerful. Pretty powerful. But again, it's a choice. It's a choice. And we don't have to realize those. We may miss that. And that kind of reminds me of a story where this lady died and transitioned to the other side. And when she got there, she became the ward of a guide. And the guide was showing her around the place and introducing her new cube or whatever they got going on over there. Reorientating her because she's been away for several years. And they go by this one room and she looks in there and she says, all these presents. She says, wow, what are all those presents? They're beautiful. She goes, yeah. And the guy tells her, said, yeah, those are gifts. These are gifts that somebody didn't want, they didn't open. Well, she became, who would do that? These are beautiful, wonderful things. Who would leave such opportunities unopened? Such gifts unopened? She goes, you did in your lifetime that you just left. All of these are opportunities. These are presents. We're being given a present. We're being given presents to elevate ourselves spiritually. But if we don't think about it in the right terms, we're just leaving presents unopened. Anybody not like to get presents? You see, it's very important to know that it's one thing to give, but you've also got to be able to receive. Receiving is every bit as important. Because when you choose to receive, you're giving somebody else an opportunity to help you, to show thanks to you. But if you shut them down, then you have an unopened gift. And all of these little things. I mean, that night on the road, we opened 5 of these puppies. Makes us wonder how many more have we left unopened. I know that it is a boatload in my case. That I can tell you. And the reason that we don't open these things is because we are clinging to materiality. We're clinging to our material beings, our lives here on earth, our earthly being. We're more concerned about self-preservation, the I, me, my. And we're not really using our powers to the best of our abilities. We may not open because they don't make sense to us. We don't think of them in those terms because we are not necessarily spiritually grounded at the time. 2751:1, remember, if the spiritual is put first and foremost, if the purpose of an individual is in the right direction, the material happenings will eventually come right. These at times may appear confusing and as being contradictory, but the law of the Lord is perfect. Think about that. How many times have we looked at stuff and we opted not to make a choice because it just didn't make sense? Didn't make sense to us. But yet, if we were following the way of the Lord and doing things with loving intent, not necessarily a popular thing in our world these days, we will find that things will work out okay in the material if we do it for the right reason. If we do it for the right reason. John gave a beautiful example about Cayce's group and the ARE. They were looking for property in Virginia Beach. Where are we going to build our hospital? Where are we going to put our headquarters? Where's all this going to go? And they were given 2 choices. They had 2 choices. So, using their gifts, they deferred to the powers above. And they came up and they meditated on it, and they chose the property they had. Several years go by, and Cayce learns that of the two choices, they actually chose the lesser of the two properties. But because they were doing it for the right reason, with loving intent, it worked out just dandy. The universe rearranged itself to accommodate the love that they were putting forth and the intent that they wanted to do it. Consequently, where they built finally has turned out just fine. But what about ourselves? We may not do things. We might want to do something that, well, people will think I'm a Jesus freak or something if I start doing that. And people are going to think bad about me. Well, do it anyway. Helping somebody. I piss people off all the time, because what I do is when I'm in a left turn lane or something and we have a gentleman over there with a sign needing something, so I always carry some water with me. So I'll go in there and give him a bottle. I'll stop and hand the guy a gallon of water, and this guy behind me is going to be PO'd because he wants to turn left. He'll just have to get over it. He'll still turn left. But we're helping somebody. We miss our opportunities because we don't think in the right terms. We're thinking the micro, me, instead of the macro, spiritually in the connection of all of us. Thus we miss our opportunities. We don't have faith. Maybe we know that, well, I should really do this for the right reason, but it just isn't going to go over well in my material environment. So I'm going to defer. That's lack of faith. You don't have faith that doing the things for the right reason is going to work. We look at these causes and effects, and we think in our monkey minds that we know all of the effects from the cause. We know we can connect all the dots. We don't have a clue. You want to know the truth? We don't have a clue. We can make a few things connect, but we don't have the big picture. Who has the big picture? God's got the big picture. But all of these are opportunities, and we always defer our opportunities because of whatever reason. And we can justify it in our minds. We can justify the hell out of it. We can justify not stopping to help somebody because I might get killed. Safety first. All right. You know, when I was a kid, I grew up out in West Texas, and I mean, you're out nowhere. I mean, halfway between El Paso and San Antonio. I mean, there ain't jack diddly out there. And my family had Phillips 66 jobbership. And as I got the driver's license and stuff, I was able to go hop in. My uncle actually hired me, probably against his best judgment. But I would go out and I would load up a truck full of gasoline or diesel or something, and I would take it out to the ranch and farms and stuff like that to deliver it for their products. And one day I was going out there, and I think it was a Saturday morning, and I'm going down this dirt road, and off on the side there was a camp of illegal aliens. They were just crossing through there, and you know, they were cooking, and you know, I had some water with me, so you know, I stopped and I gave them some water. They have some damn good tortillas and beans, I mean to tell you. Because they invited me to sit and eat, and I did. We didn't have a common word in rest. Water? Oh yeah, gracias. That's okay. Guess what? They're people. Right? They're people. Interacted, we shared. Nothing wrong with that. A little late getting back to the office, but I ate good. But it was, you know, it's just these things. We have all these events to us, our opportunities. Another time when I was out there, I was at the Firestone Proving Ground. And I was down in the front office, and my mechanic was out in the back, up there probably a mile away in the garage, and he's setting up shops. And he was out there by himself in the middle of the Proving Grounds, and here comes 4 folks strolling across the prairie. comes right in asking for some water. Scared the living hell out of him because he came out of nowhere. He wasn't expecting anybody to show up. And he calls me up. He's all in a tizzy. Do you know what? So, well, what'd you do? I said, well, I came over. I said, good. Where'd they go? They went out the door. Okay, fine. He was just all wound up because he was caught flat-footed. It's an opportunity to react. I said, hey, help him out. I mean, my God. We're all people. We're all people. And we need to learn to do things for the right reason. But one area which we don't always think about as being opportunistic is in our dreams. Dreams, believe it or not, is an opportunity. I like this because I kind of believe this. What if this reality is a dream and when we die, we wake up? Probably a very, very true statement here. This is another gift from God to us. Dreams are symbolic. The best person to interpret a dream is the dreamer themselves. Because oftentimes they're personal. And we can get, while we're sleeping, some insights to the futures. Some future events. What's going on? And have you ever had these dreams that are highly emotional and you can feel the tension and you get scared and you have difficulties and things like that? You ever have those types of dreams? Oh, yeah. And they're very, very symbolic. And Cayce tells us it's the pressing of the unconscious mind into the conscious mind. Because where do the dreams come from? Well, they come from above. And the symbology of it, it's really cool. Because if you start looking at it, and they have certain meanings that come through, and it's a good insight. It's a good insight. 136:7, thanks to Al, tells us that any event that we have in our lives is always foretold in a dream of some magnitude. And we can also ask guidance to have a dream. Through the dream, we can get an answer. I had an opportunity to go work for Border Patrol out in Yuma once. And I asked about it. I said, show me in a dream whether this is go, no-go. That night I had a dream. I spent a lot of time in San Diego when I was in the Navy, so I'm familiar with San Diego. So in my dream, I am going down Interstate 8 out of San Diego, heading east back towards Phoenix. And then, somewhere up around Grossmont or something, I get off and I turn around. Now I'm heading back into Sunset Cliffs on I-10 West. Okay. Then I suddenly, 163 is the one that comes down by the zoo and stuff, drops into 8. I find myself going the wrong way. I'm going north on 163 south. Totally wrong way driving. Here come the red and greens, the red and blues. All right? Get hauled to the pokey. Note to self, and my interpretation was this. You were going okay until you turned around. Now that you're going away from Phoenix towards the ocean, going west, Phoenix to Yuma, and you get off on the wrong turn, that don't end well, son. Don't do that. Needless to say, we're still teaching people to buy low and sell high. But the car represented self. The car is self. Your home is self. Symbology. The bedroom may have something to do with personal relationships or sex or marital status or things like that. All of these symbols are interconnected. And dreaming is actually a very, very good source for us to get some insight. That's really good stuff. Because now you're getting it straight from the horse's mouth. Because this is the unconscious dropping it down into the conscious mind. Here's how Cayce referred to it. Dreams represents something that is trying to be born into our conscious awareness. Something that's trying to be born into our conscious awareness. Carl Jung, psychoanalyst, very popular, says the best possible dreams are the best possible representation of a complex fact not yet grasped by the consciousness. Those are what dreams are. Things coming from above into us, here in the conscious mind. And if you think about this, you've probably seen this before, you are here. You're the little one. Superconscious is our connection to the divine. Subconscious is essentially the gateway. The combination of the subconscious and the superconscious constitutes our unconscious mind. Cayce defined the subconscious as being both the physical mental and the spiritual mental. It's kind of a gateway here. And when we're dreaming, it's coming down into here. But by the same token, you can also run it up in here and say, hey, give me an answer. But you got to be open to it, and you got to think about it. And it helps to have some semblance of association what these things mean, and write them down. Because it may not come that night. It may be coming over a series of time. But this is where our dreams and stuff comes from. It comes out of our unconscious minds into our pointed little heads. But this is where it is. This is something is trying to be born from here into here. We're trying to get realization of it down in here. This is our connection to God right there. He hasn't forsaken us. We're the ones that kind of forsaken Him. All we got to do is turn around and there's Johnny. He's right there. He hadn't left us. So we're always being given help. A lot of ways. And even in dreams. Even in dreams. And this talks about the universal mirror image. Hermes is on record as saying, as above, so below, as within, so without. Very, very true. Because we are all one. We're all part of the whole. Everything is an image of the other, whether we know it or not. If you start out with an individual, let's just say you have a person laying on the ground here, and you look at their eyeball, and then you start going up exponentially. And you go out to 10 billion light years. You're going to find on your way out a very structured and organized universe. It's all going to be very symmetrical. Everything is just going to be perfect. Come back in, go to the eyeball. What do you see? Well, you got your eye, the iris, the sclera, retina. But when you start drilling down, you start putting the eyeball under magnification, and you go deeper, 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 and keep expanding it. You go past the protons and the neutrons into the quarks, and the femtometers, which is 1/4,000,000th of a meter. Do you realize that you see the same thing below that you did up here? Everything on the way down is a very orderly and structured fashion, and everything on the way up is orderly in fashion. It's like a big funnel. It's like a big funnel. Think about healing. Science has told us that if we get sick or something happens, what happens? The body, other parts of the body step up. They try to compensate. You ever get a bum leg? What do? You start using your other leg more, don't you? Then you find all these other muscles you didn't know you had. Right? Yeah, what are you trying to do? You're trying to compensate. What's going on internally? Everybody is working together internally. You get a cut. What happens? Your body reacts involuntarily. White blood cells pick up. They go in to try to fight infections. It all steps up. Why? Because it's trying to heal the whole. We, individually, are simply a corpuscle in humanity's body. Every one of us. We're all interconnected. Yes, the liver don't look like the lungs, but they're vital organs. All right? Catherine don't look like me, but we're both vital. All of this is connected, interconnected one way or the other. This is the power of love. We must learn to love one another because our survival depends on the other person. Spiritually, and in a lot of cases, physically. We are all part of the whole. We need to recognize that and own that. But everything is a mirror image of each other. Everything is interconnected. Now, what about dreams? How does that work? We know that universal law says you're going to reap what you sow, and what you put out will come back to you. Right? So, what if our dreams are forward-looking emanations originating in the unconscious and includes elements of tension, stress, problems, confusion, etc., the things trying to be born into our consciousness, we're being told, Danger Will Robinson, stuff's coming down the pike, you better buckle up. Right? Then what if, to what degree may we state that our physical experiences of tension, stress, problems, and confusion are things trying to be born for the development of the soulful unconscious? For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. We're being told from the soulful level, hey, watch out. Things are going to come. Can we give back to our soul by paying attention to the things that are about the problems, the confusion, the stress? Can we choose to act in our physical in a loving way so that we benefit our souls who's trying to benefit us in the physical? Isn't that the cosmic boomerang coming out of a dream? Think about that. There are no coincidences. Dreams aren't just something that randomly happen. You're being given help. Your soul needs help. Your soul's trying to get back to its maker. These sexy bodies are going to end up in a junk pile before too long. But the soul's eternal. It goes on. What we can do is use our bodies in the physical world that we're in right now for the benefit of our soul. We don't always make the connection. We always talk about, yes, there's reincarnation. I am going to come back. Well, the I am coming back ain't this sexy body in front of you. It's the soul. So why don't we use our sexy bodies to help our souls? Thus, when we're getting dreams piped down to us of things that are forthcoming, let's treat it with loving respect. Put a good positive spin to it. Yeah? Because everything is interconnected, and I've never seen anything that's just one-way communication. Everything is two-way, bi-directional. Yeah? So, that's all I have. Are there any questions, comments, or insults? That said, good night, sweet dreams, and sleep well. Thank you.